The way their schedule ended up falling, they, based on power rankings, are playing their opponents in descending order. This is the most assured victory on paper for G2 Esports, but we also know, as Wonder just said, how confident they can actually be, which is why we might get the loose game.
And we've seen these very interesting kind of, you think back to some SK Telecom T1 games where playing Olaf made in previous tournaments.
Yep.
This is very much David versus Goliath when we look at G2 versus HKA.
Ooh, Josh has got some stats on that one.
Ooh.
We can bring that out if it's going to be a slow game, so we're not going to be bringing them out.
We're not going to bring
He's
that.
holding his stats for the VODs.
Yeah.
I know how he
But
is.
you can look back to the VODs. We actually have those down. Speaking of things being down, there are almost 6 bans already, gentlemen, as we are well and truly into this champion select. The Elise, Tristana, and Akali taken away on Hong Kong Attitude side, and then G2 Esports taking away the Pantheon and Kiana, as we would assume, and the KL is going to join them. So just power picks banned by G2.
Yeah, and even though Hong Kong Attitude come in as a big underdog, doesn't mean their draft isn't going to be good. I think the Xayah is a very strong takeaway. Perkz had an incredible game on it yesterday against C9, and it's something Unified is quite good at.
Not something he's played so far in the group stage, though, because group stage he's been trying to dodge laning phase with Garen and Syndra and the non-traditional marksman. Doesn't mean they're going to get Xayah Rakan. Mickey happy to rip it away, and I'm always interested in the flavor of Rakan buddy, if it's not Xayah. I'm not a big fan of the Ezreal Rakan or the Kai'Sa Rakan necessarily, but it does depend on what you want to do, and they could always go non-meta with it, such as G2.
Yeah, they could do some weird stuff here, but G2 is going to just lock away the Lee Sin. Understandable, picking up these 2 champions if you're then going to pick the Xayah, but that one is not going to be an option. And HKA grabbed themselves the Gragas, followed up by the Thresh, which feels like second in line from just the basic Lovers duo.
Yeah, I think so too. And for G2 Esports, the fact that Syndra hasn't been banned would draw your attention and say, why doesn't Perkz just play that? But we also have to keep in mind, G2 is in a comfortable spot in this group. I think if this was game 5 of a best of 5, we would definitely see the Syndra, but I don't know if they want to show it quite yet.
Isn't it almost incorrect not to just pick it here and put it somewhere later?
I think so.
But, I mean, if it's going to go towards the bottom side in the hands of Perkz, Featherstorm is a great answer to the Syndra, theoretically.
But
you
Gragas
can
isn't that tanky. He can be popped, Thresh can be popped. There's
Oh
still
yeah, other
targets.
options, absolutely.
So let's see if G2 want to do that. No, they're
right.
going to go differently, and this could very much be bot lane.
It could be.
3-lane flex of the Yasuo here. We haven't seen top lane in a very long time, but going to lock it in. It's another duo that's denied here. Gragas, Yasuo, Xayah Rakan.
Yep.
Believers of pure love, look away. About your eyes.
If you're talking about, you know, the fact that things have been ripped away from one another, I mean, what isn't an issue is Yasuo's got knockups from absolutely everyone. So far, of course, Rakan, very good with the grand entrance plus the kickback on Jankos' side. So wherever this Yasuo goes, it's going to be having a good time. We're suspecting Perkz on the bottom side of the map. He has been the Yasuo player, but Caps, of course, can use that pair up with Jankos, does have the knock-up once level 6 is being claimed by the Lee Sin, and those ganks can be pretty terrifying. Already, with a couple of bans coming in there as the Twisted Fate and Renekton taken away on G2 side, continuing on down the line when it comes to just strong picks at the moment, and the LeBlanc taken away on Hong Kong Attitude side. Final ban to come in.
Yeah, and the strange thing about watching ban phases against G2 is, like, even though, yeah, Rakan, Lee Sin, Yasuo seem like standard picks, you have no idea what they are going to do. The first day of group stage, they did Ornn, Orianna, and then the fact that they didn't even ban Syndra second phase, okay, we get it.
It feels
knockup.
They feel very nominal, right? They're very nominal bans of like, I guess this.
Yeah.
That's the flexibility and one of the biggest weapons that G2 will wield at this World Championship. Again, Syndra somewhere is the story here.
Yeah.
And now Hong Kong Attitude just want to make it ultra standard. They go their own scaling and they say, well, these champs won for other people. Let's put them all together. But a balanced team fight comp. We've got some insurance throwing a cannon barrage down bot lane. I just need to see this last pick to make heads or tails of G2.
Well, Gangplank will be locked away, so that is your HKA lineup. Not a lot of ambiguity when it comes to this one as well, so we know where everything's going, and now G2 can answer, and maybe we'll learn something at this point. Maybe we'll learn something at 20 seconds in the next countdown, and Vladimir is locked away. So let's find out where all these picks are going.
Yeah, that's kind of the one pick that I think I was able to predict here in the G2 of last picking Vladimir into the GP. It can scale faster than Vladimir and get solo lane kills, and also, since there's so much knock-up synergy, the Yasuo Syndra can still swap at any point.
Well, I mean, the Yasuo, being in the bottom side at the moment, still have to wait until 20 seconds, though, because it was an old favorite into the Orianna in times past.
Exactly. We'll hold our breath on that one. I must admit, I thought maybe you return to the Ornn, because in such a mid-range comp, the initiation would have been big, but pick for lane is the way that G2 decided to go with a lane buster, and it's Perks who, you know what, I'm going to give him credit. He'll listen back to this VOD. He's probably the best Yasuo on the lineup. He gets to play Yasuo in the bot lane. I was with this team on their boot camp, and it gets very personal the moment you say, who is the best X?
Best Pyke, best Syndra,
They've
best
played
Yasuo.
Pyke in all 5 roles.
Who was the best? Did they?
It was. I can agree with one thing. It wasn't Jankos.
Well, I don't think that it was Wonder as well, because he broke my heart when he was playing the Pyke.
Hey, but let's give Jankos one thing. Best Braum on the team.
Oh yeah, greatest kid yesterday in G2 as well. As we are very close to getting into the final game of the day. Let's go. And here we are onto the Rift for the final game of the day. HKA versus G2. It's going to be an uphill battle for our blue side squad. And G2, let's see what they have in store for us with this Yasuo composition. Only the Vladimir unable to get those knockups from the last breath. As over the wall goes Mickey. And Unified takes a couple of autos, but is otherwise all right.
Good scouting report here, actually. When it comes to checking all these brush, I can remember Origin being tilted off the Rift in some of those spring playoffs best of fives by the very creative approaches that with starting the grand entrance on Rakan you can pull off at level 1. So no cheese level 1 here to tilt you off the planet. G2, they're adoring fans. They've kind of, as an org, gone around the world searching for acceptance and love, and definitely here in Berlin, they are a fan favorite.
Definitely with the home crowd behind them, and this might be the only time in the game where we have a little bit of a lull. The last 2 games we've played have been 44.5 minutes and 43.5 minutes long.
Okay, so what are we expecting now?
We only get one topic.
G2 has averaged 27 minutes and 12 seconds so far at World's Group Stage, which, if they kept it up, would be faster than IG last year, who was the fastest group stage average ever. Just so people know, not necessarily tracking anything, the fastest game in World's history is 20 minutes and 21 seconds. We know G2 has the fastest game of MSI history, and these are like the G2 side quests, potentially, in this group stage.
I'm going to have to pull my one veto for Smithy replacement in the LCK. We had one lull, and he talked about the game in it. What the hell?
Sorry, you're off the hook now, Jat. It's just not going to happen. We're looking for different things, slightly different skills.
Maybe in the next life.
Required. Yeah, maybe next season. You just work on it. You could work on it.
Change your opinion real fast.
Oh, it's just we had such great intervieu process. There's been like what 8 games so far.
They're loving the
9th one.
They're loving the Atlas Jack combo. I got to say. Well, let's see here at level 1. Level 2 advantage comes in and grand entrance out very quickly.
That's a grand exit, Papa Smithy, as Mickey X does get himself out. But no harm, no foul, and this minion wave is going to be pushed towards G2 pretty easily.
These Yasuo lanes always change around level 6 when that extra threat of an all-in comes in. The wind wall can be very powerful against the Xayah feathers, we must remember. And it will also stop the ball on a command attack as well.
Yeah, and we should talk about Hong Kong Attitude for a minute, because I feel like Crash personally has been their best performing player, and if they are to try and get a foot up in this game, I think it would have to be off of Crash making a big play. But here comes
This
Jankos.
is going to be the big play into the mid lane as Mission. He has got no good options. He's just wandering around. First Blood comes in for G2 so easily.
Pre-Scuttle Crab spawn. Crash was just waiting there saying, I'm going to get the jump here. Now he doesn't have mid lane assistance and has to give it up.
And of course, Jankos will tend towards the top Scuttle because you plug and play every Gragas to full clear red side and Krugs before going towards a Scuttle. No Scuttle for you is bot lane.
Already a teleport towards the bottom side of the map. But
Mickey!
Already Unified has taken down Mickey. We're going to even out the odds here on G2 side. It's Caps. He's going to grab a kill back, and now Unified's getting stabbed. The flash forward from Perks. Another orb and a double kill for the Syndra.
He's 3-0 before 4 minutes.
Yep, that is definitely a fact here, and the teleport is a G2 special. We talked about it at MSI, but Caps is so ready to give up minion waves to help his allies, and that was a fortuitous teleport. That could be another kill.
Crash is here,
Closing in
though.
once again, only level 4 into Jankos as we throw down the orbit. Caps finds the scat of the week, doesn't get that last one as Jankos is going to be taken down so close to a god tier play, but in the end, Jankos is just going to fall.
And the tracking there from Crash means they are able to answer back. A little bit of lead syndrome on the second half there. The interrupt strong. And now 5 kills in 4 minutes already.
Well, Kaiwing, can you land the hook? Not going to go for it. Because, of course, Windwall was available. Perks without any summoner spells. He's just going to go back home. Couple of assists to his name. And Caps went back and just got a blasting one. I love that.
Yeah, he had that before, and now he's going to
yeah.
expand on it, which is delightful on his way towards a lost chapter. Gonna watch the bot lane here, and the TP timing is so proactive. It's out of screen on the framing there, and it's what allows them to spare their blushes, and it's the trust fall of G2, and Mickey says, I'm going in, because I know this will work out.
Yeah, Unify did what he could to be able to pick up the first kill onto Mickey, but the number advantage was just there for the rest of G2 now. As you mentioned, 5 kills in the first 5 minutes of this game.
Well, we've got a bit of a roam on here from Jankos and Mickey. They can move towards Mission if they want to, but Mission gets the memo. He's going to head underneath his turret. Jankos going to stop the back for now. Dissonance moves Mission a little bit faster as now Crash. He's going to get discovered here by the Lee Sin. He knew that the Orianna was available as the barrel going to pop. Mickey turns up a little bit late, but Jankos is going to be alive. Kaiwing unable to get there in time.
I'm pretty sure Mickey stole everything. I think his E1 got all the little raptors that had been brought through, and then his smite killed the big raptor. So all this proactivity, even if they lost a little bit of CS in the bottom lane, is paying off.
Well, Grand Entrance comes in. He can't click the lantern. He lands himself the hook, but that lantern eventually is discovered. Jankos once again lurking bottom side of the map. Caps is here as well. 4-man dive opportunity. A big minion wave with a cannon is prepared. And HKA, can you outplay this one? Only level 4 on Unified. No flashes on either members. And G2, they're not going to go for it.
It's not a full minion wave. They were spotted early, smart there, and then probably the spotting ward that he's walking over now was helpful. Crash pops the Predator, just say, please go away.
They can oblige.
They will for now, at least. Not going to see a Drake start yet. Either, you would imagine. Actually, Sorcerer's Shoes rush here, so the most possible burst here. And remember that Syndra, to Synacists at least, is kind of a stat check champion of, do you have enough AP and Magic Pen? The answer right now is yes, and it was an old counter matchup into the Orianna, who has an old Magic Mantle, but going to have to hug it really closely to stay alive.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Mickey has Aftershock on Rakan. Usually you see Guardian on this. It would potentially give him more resists in and all-in with Yasuo, but if he gets hooked out, he can't just immediately proc it to get that bonus.
We saw it from time to time in the LCK. Like you said, Guardian was still the dominant one, as Perk's going to leap around. This game is going to be, I mean, you can't really run Yasuo bot lane unless you're Grand Entrancing in a lot, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in the front line. And speaking of front lines...
Yeah, that's going to be the body slam. Crash takes a drink, looking for Mickey. Battle Dance going to be there, though, and HKA find nothing.
He knows his role. He has to dive in and hopes to not get popped instantly to AoE damage from, say, for example, an Orianna. So don't mind it in this situation at all as Mickey walks back in.
Caps is pretty rich, by the way, guys. That's what we're looking at right now. About 6,500 gold. There's 3Z underneath his turret. We haven't really been looking towards the top side of the map. A little bit too much going on around elsewhere. But they're sitting at about the same health mark, and as you can see in the CS, it's a slight lead for Wonder, which is bad news bears, because there's a Kleptomancy, and that's going to mean that Wonder is well and truly ahead.
And I do think overall, Honking Attitude's done a pretty good job of keeping up with G2's pace of game right here. Crash got that first counter gank mid. He's also here for the counter gank top. Now it's about execution.
Yeah, may have spoken a little bit too soon there as 3Z's going to have that Hemoplague pop as Caps, not a lot of mana.
Crash!
And Jankos has to use the safeguard, gets himself out. Red buff not going to be enough. But G2, they botched the dive.
Scat of the Week missed from Caps, and they just didn't have enough damage to pick up a kill, but he's sticking around. Another range of cooldowns and mana regen should be available.
He's been there a while, though. It gives time for Orianna to go into the river, and kind of sensing that Orianna had gone missing from the mid lane, Caps realizes he has to blast cone out.
Yep, and there's a ward there that shows that he did make the right call. This minion wave completely goes begging, though. So Caps had a large advantage there in the mid lane, but loses a wave and maybe an opportunity for Mission to even things up as Kaiwing wants to get it. Oh, Perks has to use the wind wall to stop the hook from registering, but the back is stopped, and that is time bought for HKA. Valuable time for them to get themselves together, and Crash is going to take a blue buff.
I mean, that was not obviously the intended situation, but it's what happened.
Looked like it. I'm not going to lie. It didn't look like he was stopping that auto attack.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
But at the end of this point of the game, remember that Vlad scales into supremacy in the 1v1 against Vlad. Kill pressure, so against GP, the kill pressure's not there yet, so that's going to be obviously better and better come level 9. At the end of the day, HKA drafted a very simple kind of to execute teamfight comp here, and they just want to get some scaling, make this game square, and then get going on some form of 1-2 item power spikes. So anything that keeps them even for a long time is what they're looking for.
Yeah, and something we've always seen from other great teams in the past is even when the game felt like it was close, they were pulling ahead. And we saw this yesterday in the game versus C9 where Licorice was popping off top lane. Caps and Perks just kept growing that gold lead, but another hook on Mickey.
That's just dead Mickey.
He's dead. Yep.
It's the lane ward there that made it so easy to connect, and while Perks and Mickey were trying to hold the wave about where Perks is standing to try to get some sort of deep freeze and use also the wind wall to get lane control, the lane ward in that brush actually undid everything, didn't even require the Gragas to be involved. Now Perks just has to CS under turret.
Should be able to as well. We'll have that wind wall up for himself, so clears out the wave, spins around a little bit with the Q while you're dashing through things, and everything's going to be all right. Perks now sees this ward, clears it out, and G2 get themselves down here to get rid of the excess vision. Still, the Mountain Drake hasn't been taken, but Shelly has just spawned onto the Rift. We'll see whether that extra objective that's been applied to the map is going to help out for either G2 or HKA as far as making some moves.
And considering this game started with a 3-minute first blood for Caps into an immediate double kill teleport bot lane, HKA has done a great job of neutralizing that from that point, and now Crash has the upgraded jungle item, so does pack a big punch if they want to contest this Drake.
Crash throws in the barrel, they can see the health bar. G2 keeping it at about 1,000. The ball's not going to land on anyone, whether they be from the Orianna or from the Syndra. It's just going to be secured Drake going over to G2 without a fight.
Didn't have enough battle stats on mission, I think, to try to take some sort of walk-up team fight. So in the end, they do cede the Mountain Drake. That doesn't really affect the pace of the game right now. So off spawns, they will accept that for the present. G2 desperately want to play mid to bot or bot to mid and just control the bot side of the map because the inevitability is Wonder getting stronger and stronger of a foothold in the 1v1. The Rift Herald does muddy the waters for a little bit, but that's largely been the game. So the fact that some of these kills have been repelled or answered in the mid lane, for example, Crash being able to avert Jankos' kill earlier, has allowed them more of a foothold than you might imagine, and they're actually the first to make this visit with friends to the Rift Herald.
And G2 had 2 bottom lane at 12 minutes, which for this tournament is different, but they still go for play.
Yeah, kickback is going to come in. Mission flashes to relative safety. Out of the way of the Scat of the Week there as well, which would have meant the kill. Wonder comes on down, has himself the Hemo Plague, and it's going to be Shelly disengaged from. Pretty frightening.
She's not going to reset yet, remember. This could just be Rift Herald for G2.
Yeah, she's a patient lady, is old Shelly. Now, Unified not going to get there as Crash just steals it away. They go 1 for 1 of the neutral objectives in this early game as G2 now back to the mid lane. Caps throws out a whole lot of spheres, but isn't going to find the kill there.
Smite was a couple of seconds off being available for Jankos, so just swept in, took it out, did Crash. It's nice reward for effort. The side of HKA is hook.
Whoa, blind hook is going to land there. The barrel's going to pop, and Kaiwing grabs the kill on a Mickey again.
And it's the wards just keep catching him out in the wrong spot is what it feels like. The Eye of the Herald, have to note, will time out. It lasts for 40 seconds, and HKA was pretty much zoned off of the area. Unless Thresh is making a run for it, he might get it. No, looks like it expired right as he was running up to it.
Unfortunate. So Shelly's going to go begging, but otherwise HKA with a decent fight there. Still going to be trailing when it comes to that gold. Told a little bit of a lie there. Wasn't a blind hook, as you mentioned, Jat. Thank you very much for that one. But still, great to land it there from Kaiwing, and just to be able to delete a member of G2 really does slow down this composition.
Which being my early MVP here, he's been on point with his hooks. He's made the rounds. He's actually top side now. Not ideal to have 2 of the 4 kills, but liked his impact.
Being very patient as well, Papa. As we have a look towards the bottom side of the map, HK just holding on to this turret. It's going to be Perks down there just pushing wave after wave, but he's only even. The big discrepancies are in the solo lanes as Caps takes his 4th plate, I believe, and will be able to finish off this outer turret in the mid lane. That's going to be the first turret going down, and having that be outer in mid lane, it's pretty crazy on G2's side. Have a look at this one once again.
They saw Jankos walking up, so they had that extra bit of early
have the
information.
ward
it was
in the brush.
It was blind, okay.
Yeah, very good just awareness by the rest of HK. Yeah, it was actually G2's ward that was in that brush.
They saw him walking in, so it was, of course, either going to hit or be slightly askew, but blind, at least in
what would the name be for that? Is there a name in between, like...
Yeah, blindish.
Blindish, yeah. Somewhat sight impaired.
Vision impaired, yeah. Like
Vision
you need
impaired.
glasses to drive.
Hard of sight.
Yeah, hard of sight.
Legally blind.
They're actually
maybe like
yeah.
previously in vision.
I apologize in advance if that was offensive.
Hey, this was all you, man. We're just trying to help you out.
We definitely
it's a
jumped
trust
on that
fall
one
on the
maybe a
card.
little
This
too
is
much.
true.
Okay, well, HKA get themselves towards the top side of the map. They are going to siege down on this turret. This is feeling pretty comfortable right now for HKA.
Nothing Perks can do as a melee champion here. He takes his time. He really needs to survey. The question mark pings do show that not all the allies are around, so he'll start to close the distance. Caps disgustingly far ahead of mission, especially 2,200 gold at 15 minutes.
Jeepers.
That's, about 80% of a full item completion this early.
Well, Mickey might just be dead again. Throws in the control ward. Hook's going to land, though. Barrel back. I've seen this one before, guys.
One of those games.
Yep.
Last game, that was Jankos.
That's true.
This game, it's Mickey.
Around the same time, too. 041, same stat line.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
And the strange thing is, in the C9 game, it was Perks who was 2,000 or 3,000 gold ahead of the rest of the game. This time, it's Caps.
It just shows that anyone on G2 can be anyone on G2. As another hook is going to land, Jankos going to at least begin to prove my point, but looks like he's trying to make his way out. Does he have another safeguard? The answer is no. Booped. Mission grabs the kill.
We're having a bit too much fun on the side of G2. 6 deaths so far. Nothing that's going to decide the game. It's still a gold lead of 1,400 gold, but here's another one.
Well, looking for a fight here, but Perks is 2 versus 1 for the moment, but Mickey comes down. Oh, Grand Entrance doesn't get there as Mickey. One more crit would kill him. Flash forward, flash hook not going to land. Has crashed. Oh, doesn't even get the flash. That was out of vision, which is why that missed so horribly. And then goes Golden just to demonstrate that he can at least still swag out. And there goes Unified clearing out the minion wave.
G2 definitely playing loose, and because of the scaling of Hong Kong Attitude, they definitely need to clean up the way that they're playing probably for the rest of the game. This turret goes over in the top. HKA is going to be pulling actually quite close in the gold, making it under 1K at 16 minutes. And G2 needs to really just clean up the play. Hong Kong Attitude's played very well so far.
And when it comes to scaling, there'll be a big mid-game portion where Hong Kong Attitude's pretty easy to execute teamfight comp with good scalers. I think we'll pull away. I still think there's a 6-item Vladimir breakpoint where he kind of runs at people, can take over, but that's ages away. And in the immediacy of the next 15 minutes, moments like this, especially with Mickey, who's just, he honestly just needs to eat his Wheaties and get some experience. He's still level 6 and almost going down to a gust of wind every time he rolls by.
And Crash doesn't get the flash there. Of course, no vision available, but still able to get the fadeaway barrel.
Had a stopwatch. We'll be building that into a Zonia's shortly, so shouldn't actually have to sit on that broken stopwatch for long.
In fact, not very much money to complete that recipe as well. It has all of the components available. So G2 will finally get their act together and take down this outer turret by the looks of things, but no, this minion wave is going to get finished off pretty quickly. Jankos, is he going to get that ward and actually just finds 3Z? Can he get it? Actually takes down the barrel, like it. Lands another cube.
He's got his Conqueror.
Trying to come on down. Yeah, exactly. Jankos just fighting the
One
top
more?
laner like he's an even match as the flash is gained. Traded for the Grand Entrance. Brilliant for G2. In the meantime, Perks taking down the outer turret top lane.
And moments like that where actually you're zoomed in on the kill but realize to herald the minion wave being taxied by Perks to get the turret shows the more fundamental side. As Caps is
Yeah, that's a lot of spheres, but not enough.
One sidestep of a skill shot there by 3Z means he can stay alive. And yes, G2 sent about 3 or 4 people after 3Z. It means they have the rest of their team on the other side of the map, and they can actually get a tier 2.
They make it a very long lane in this bot lane. The Cannon Barrage used to prune a wave as well. So there's no gold lead really at all. They are actually even in gold in 18 minutes, which given some of the predictions and the speed runs that people were alluding to, even the early game, right? The pace is slowed, and suddenly things are looking competitive.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to end this game in the next 2 minutes.
There's the safeguard back as 3Z, the Hemo Plague is down.
He's fine.
Tides of Bloods are in, but as you can see, yeah, exactly right, chat, and Crash is going to get the answering kill onto Jankos. Mission turns up with the teleport, and HKA, they're triaging beautiful. 8-3 now is their advantage. And guys, when do we start talking about this as an HKA game that they have control of and may just win?
I think this is the start of the conversation. Crash is playing a great game. He has been counter-ganking Jankos every single time except for the first blood. Now G2 wants to try another fight.
Feels like we've been waiting for this Crash for upwards of 2 years. But maybe, just maybe, he's going to start living up to that Longzhu hype back in the day.
Very, very early hype. He always had something about him. A swagger, his Nidalee very impressive on debut, but never took the next step. Was never a starter and a contender. He's found his way to the World Championships. And he and Kaiwing together, the Thresh and the Gragas have been everywhere in this early game. And G2 skip steps. That's what they do. They like to skip steps to find plays and surprise people with their aggression. Turns out when your buddy system's working, the outnumbering, the kills, and so far no inroads for G2.
Well, red buff going to be taken here from Perks. Might be a little bit early because, of course, only 500 gold is going to be the difference. HKA, they are crossing their T's, dotting their I's, getting themselves towards a moment where this Baron can be contended with. Bottom side of the map is Jankos. No vision on him on HKA's side, but look at all of the vision they have top side of the map. They've done their homework, and they know where G2 are. 3Z heads down. He's got teleport available. This is just clean.
And G2 need to play around their strongest member in Caps, but that's actually, as he checks mid, has to burn his flash.
Immediately, yeah. Cannon Barrage is invested there as well as G2 trying to regroup. And Dissonance, bit of damage onto Wonder. Hook's not landing. HKA just back away, but you can feel the teeth that this composition has at this stage of the game.
Exactly. It's getting to that point we talked about in the mid game where you love what they've got going on. Jankos chasing down.
Yeah, 3Z gets kicked back, sorry, as the Q is going to land. Caps, I think there should be enough spears now for them to grab this kill as the Unleashed power may be necessary, and Caps decides not to waste any more time. But it does take a little while, 2 versus 1 bottom side. What can HKA do to get things back elsewhere?
Yeah, 3Z was trying to play a little ring around the rosy, but that is exactly what G2 needed to do with playing around Caps.
It was a little bit in the middle of nowhere too, 3Z. Like he was actually really far from the minion. He was around the Grump line on the side of G2, so that was one of the few times they didn't have vision to play around, and we talked about the buddy system. They abandoned it for a second. Speaking of the buddies, they're mid.
They're still setting up, though. Caps abandoned mid lane, which means HKA can push there. The response was delayed, but this was the response.
And Crash was here this whole time, now looking for a potential engage maneuver. Barrel comes in, Wonder down to about half health, but he's Vladimir, so no use really talking about that one. Rubber bands that health bar a heck of a lot. Jankos comes around, and HKA say, well, let's move towards this bottom side. Dragon going to be up relatively soon. Not entirely sure what's coming up next. G2, clear out vision. They've got topside control at this point.
If you look at the Vladimir build, it tells you what Wonder's role is this game. He hasn't gone for the early 20% CDR, working towards something like a Proto Belt, no Kindle Gem in the inventory. The Spellbinder as a flanking item allows you to get access to a team fight, and he's going to get a sweet hat to back it up. So he's very much going for the Wombo Burst alongside a Rakan Yasuo engage. If you pick the right time, you hit those spells, people die real fast. If you pick the wrong time, you don't have a stopwatch, and you can actually be mown down as you make the engage.
I feel like now's the time for HKA. Wonder is so close to finishing off his Rabadon's death cap. It's going to be scary amounts of damage for the Vladimir once that one is complete. G2 still splitting this map up. They have side lanes in decent positions, and now they're
want the
crashing
flank
towards HKA. Q going to land onto 3Z, holds onto it for the moment. There's the stun. Crash, remember, very squishy with this particular build, especially against magic damage, despite the Merc Treads.
Yeah, and you were just talking about items. HKA just completed Infinity Edge on Unified. So now would be the time that they could actually want to take a 5v5 team fight. They have all of their ultimates available. Level 13 GP, still a strong Gragas. If they found a fight and were actually able to win it with the Mountain Drake, it would be Baron and a very serious conversation about them upsetting G2.
But G2 have been a lot smarter in the last 5 minutes. They kind of made the same comms we heard in their listen-in earlier. You know, guys, we're running it down. and have just gone back to pushing out lanes. We know they have the priority matchups in some of them. Specifically, no one kind of wants to lane against Vladimir for the rest of this game, more Malmortius or no. And it's in these times that G2 show their fundamentals. Yes, we know about the flash, the panache, the Garen lock-ins, but you forget through all of that, they have standard macro elements like they showed in their first game of this tournament, where they keep pushing you, they keep prodding you, and whether it's your little brother or G2, sometimes you make a mistake along the line, get angry, and they take advantage of that. So Baron's setup that was so favored to Hong Kong Attitude is actually now all G2.
Yeah, things are really demonstrating as far as G2's flexibility is concerned. A lot of different compositions in the first round robin so far. This game is far from over, and there's still half the kills that HKA have picked up. Still, they're going to hold a 200 gold lead as Mickey has to grand exit once again. Good stun onto Unified. This damage will stick for a little bit.
Let me draw your attention to the item lead between the mid lanes. It's 1.5 items to 3.
And the Banshee's Veil, I think, is quite important for Caps because he didn't have that before. It stops Crash from being able to get that guaranteed initiation on him and allows Caps to also siege a little bit better, so it can't just be a cask from Fog of War that flies at him.
Yeah, very dangerous to be a Syndra just in general. You don't have the highest of mobility, as Perks is underneath an inner turret, and there are 3 members of HKA moving around, but who is hunting who? Jankos gonna get himself around. Grand entrance is there as,
We all took a deep breath when Wonder was considering flashing over the wall.
That's a pull. And Wonder's going to be absolutely fine. I also held my breath a little bit there, but then remembered that he's the Vladimir.
Just feels like G2 are shaping up to be the pool sharks here. They're giving you a couple of free trick shots. They don't seem that good at sinking the balls. And suddenly, that one was almost the connection they've been looking for all game.
When is the hustle going to be over, though, Papa Smithy, is my question. 600 gold the lead for G2. They're still pulling further and further ahead as their side lane control has just been far better, and HKA have been struggling to figure out what to do.
But remember, further and further is very much just a turn of phrase here. We're talking about 1,000 gold, right? There's no huge amount of gold here. What they have pulled further and further ahead in is map control. They're no longer trading quadrants. They're getting what they want. We're just right now still judging to what end. And this could be a game where vision exhaustion, where a full reset from one team gives a Baron to the other. Speaking of which, seeing the recall from the Orianna, but the Scuttlecrab vision is undeniable.
Yeah, definitely watch for Jankos to try and make an engage on the Orianna or the Xayah. More likely the Orianna, because Xayah would be able to just use the ultimate and counter that engage. If G2 can get a start like that, then they'd want to run over a team fight.
And we have to remember that this is G2 with a Yasuo, so often when you have unconventional bottom lanes, the Baron damage goes down. When you've got a Yasuo, it actually stays about the same. Does a lot of damage there and can deny a lot of the damage back with the wind wall. Not going to invest. Oh my god! Just disgusting damage from Caps right there. G2 still stay on the Baron. They're bathing in the cannon barrage, as they will be able to take this one down. Crash not going to be able to get in there as the Hemo Plague onto 3 members, but Wonder just going to use it to make sure that they cannot get in there and disrupt the Baron. Look at all the damage. 2-man Shockwave, though, is Mission trying to get one back. Caps gets shut down, but Unified may have sacrificed himself for it. Perks puts him in the death chamber, and now Mission trying to run for the hills. No mana, but Kaiwing sets up the box to try and stop it. 3Z, these battles need to be respected, but lands the Q. Does Jankos, the flash forward. Mission now not going to get knocked up by the grand entrance as Kaiwing keeps his mid laner alive, but can't do it for the rest of his team.
And few teams can turn an even game into that. That was a vision-starved Hong Kong Attitude trying to find access to the Baron pit, getting an uncontested Baron, and then also a one-team fight afterwards.
And those are the fundamentals we talked about. As TPs come from everywhere, orbital strikes, here we go.
Yeah, we're still fighting. Flash Flay comes in from Kaiwing, but he's punished for it. Goes golden for a moment, but he's still going to be dead. Stabbed by Perks. As now Mission. He's got a command attack, but over goes Wonder. Very aggressive is G2, but they're buying space. Caps is just sieging by himself on this inhibitor turret. Unified had to respawn in order to protect it, and now finally we might have some respite.
And it's almost like G2 finds moments like this and they combat problem solve. It's like a jigsaw puzzle for them. Okay, we made some mistakes. We didn't engineer this to perfection. Grabs is probably mad, but how do we fight our way through this scenario? And even the TP spot there to get inhibitor turret damage allows them to take that combat puzzle, largely solve it, and get the first meaningful gold lead in a while.
And I've heard G2 spoken about as the villains, but honestly, when you're going to give fun games like this, they certainly are the heroes to me. As Caps does a heck of a lot of damage, guys, as we check out this replay.
Gragas overkilled by 1,000 damage here. Didn't even get any hits of the ultimate. Wonder jumps in, doesn't have the 6 items yet, but puts in a big chunk. What you'll notice is the flash in from Caps is for an AoE knockup, but Perkz wasn't able to get in, so they have to get a little bit creative towards the end.
They end up getting the knockup on Unified after Unified tried to make the move to carry the fight, and then Jankos just has very high skill shot accuracy throughout the rest of the fight.
Yeah, stretching a little bit to try and take down the Syndra. You can understand exactly why, because he's so extraordinarily strong, his Caps. But G2, now it's the war of attrition. Now it's the G2 that has all of the control. 4,000 gold, the first real gold advantage. The second Infernal Drake is going to be up very soon also, but the game may not last that long. We're about to tick over 30 minutes. And when we go back to our initial conversations of how fast can you beat the bottom teams in your group, when you're talking about these teams that we expect to go very deep in this tournament, it's not going to be G2, but they've been having a lot of fun. Mickey goes golden, not going to die, just gets Caps, just destroys Crash. Didn't even notice because it happens way too fast as Unified. He's almost an afterthought as Perkz gets a double. It's Jankos that grabs one towards the end. Mission wonders what happens as his team evaporates. And now Mission, Hemoplague is down. He has himself that shockwave, but the Crimson Rush scores the ace, and G2, they're not messing around anymore. They had fun at the beginning, but that stops now as they move to 3-0 in the group.
The slowest game of the 3, but still the fastest team at Worlds through the first half of the group stage.
Yep, they were racing through their earlier matchups as well as the Nexus is gonna go down. G2 on the final game of the first round robin. They're gonna play with their food for a moment before taking those last auto attacks. In fact, thankfully, the caster minions are gonna do it for them.
G2 Esports will join SK Telecom T1 as the only 2 teams to close out the first round robin 3-0. They came in as 2 of the overwhelming favorites. They exit the first round robin as 2 of the overwhelming favorites, and you put it very aptly, Atlas. They played with their food. They checked to see if there was still a pulse. But when it came to the actual game-winning moment, it was a standard one. It was a Baron setup. It was a good turn from there. And even if sometimes it's their creativity that gets the worst of them, it's the standard play that can get the better of most.
Yeah, they were like the older brothers playing basketball with their younger brother, you know. They'll let them win until the ego comes in to check, until maybe there's a chance for a victory, and then it's all business for G2.
There were games domestically that I think that fits. I actually want to reward Hong Kong Attitude here, specifically their jungle and support, for being ahead of plays and for holding G2 in check. That was less just completely G2 misfiring and more that Hong Kong Attitude stayed with